Hi, this is Bob Samuels, CEO of Tech Connector, and I'm also the host of the ABM Leaders Group. And I have two of my favorite ABM leaders here with me today, and Rohan Salgarkar with the Vera Insights and Angel Oberoi. I better get those right. So Oberoi
That's
and
right.
Salgarkar. Okay, so I'm going to start again. Hi, this is Bob Samuels from Tech Connector. I'm also host of the ABM Leaders Group, and I have two of my favorite ABM leaders here. Rohan Salgarkar and Angel Oberoi are here, and it's nice to have you. How are you today?
Great. Doing great.
And this is a preview and a teaser of our full ABM Leader Group that we're meeting on September 9th. We're going to talk about some of my favorite subjects around ABM and around intelligence. And I think it's some of your favorite topics as well, huh?
Absolutely is. I think data and actionable intelligence are the keywords in any good marketer's playbook today. So absolutely looking forward to a good discussion.
Thank you. And I'm always reminded that the intelligence is something that's, if you do it right, you have, do it up front. You have to get the intelligence first before you can really get into a serious execution. And a lot of times people forget about how important it is to get the intelligence up front.
Right. You really have to know who you're targeting, what you're going to say to them, what resonates with them if you hope to get good results coming out of those initiatives.
Yeah.
So otherwise, it's just spray and pray. So I think that's absolutely in any ABM marketer's playbook, knowing who you are going after and what the message is that will resonate with them is critical.
And I guess there's different flavors of the ABM because you have the one-to-one and you've got the one-to-many and one-to-few. So where do you generally play?
It depends on the stage of the ABM program. When we start off, it's usually one-to-many because you are trying to learn the market, learn the industry, learn the accounts. And then from there, as the program matures, you go into the one-to-one and building out more personalized experiences. So it totally depends on the maturity of the organization and the ABM team.
And then I assume there's lots of different personas at each company, each prospect.
Yes. So in our world here at Gigamon, we're definitely focused on the higher level senior personas to engage with through our ABM efforts. And then we have our IDM efforts that go after the operator level personas. So it's a tie-in between the different groups, and we make sure we reach out to all the different personas in those accounts.
And then I assume you group the accounts and different similar attributes, maybe by industry, maybe by geography, maybe by size, maybe, do you group it by the applications that you have and which ones?
Industry is definitely one of the common foundational clusters that we've built out. So it's by industry and then by personas within those. So, if it's financial services within those by persona, we have our net ops and personas, and then we have our security operational personas and the CISOs. So we have those different segmentations.
And you find with that within that industry, the geography and the company size and other attributes are not as critical to distinguish.
They become critical as the program matures, you go down that path. But in the early stages, you do start with the broader level messaging. And then as we mature, we go down the global, segmentation as well. But it totally depends on where the program is.
Makes sense. And then the intelligence, you're gathering it on behalf of, I guess, several internal constituents. You have the sales group, the marketing group, the content writers, the product folks, so that they're all wanting different intelligence, I guess.
It all comes together. I mean, different intelligence, but the end result is all pulling it together in a way that it's actionable to bring together that conversation with that ABM account and the personas within those accounts, right? So the end result is the same, or end goal, I should say, is the same, but the way we deploy that intelligence may be different, or the way we come to that intelligence may be different.
Yeah, and the intelligence that you have, I guess, first party intelligence, and then you use third party partners as well.
we have a suite of, yes, internal intelligence sources, external intelligence sources. I mean, we use vendor partners like Rohan's organization who, help us provide, get those insights that are being surfaced out through surveys or outside external sources. And then we have our internal customer success teams, our internal sales and ABM pods that are also pulling knowledge together. And then channel is another place we go and obtain intelligence from. So yes, absolutely many, many different sources, but again, it all comes together and then helps us build our ABM plan to engage.
Rohan?
Yeah, so I think Angel, one of the thoughts that was running in my mind when you talked about actionable intelligence and how you collect and how critical it is, how much of this actionable intelligence is coming from your existing customers as well? There's always going to be a gap analysis with your future prospects, but is there a team which is also collecting this intelligence from your existing customers to kind of see how Gigamon has been instrumental in kind of meeting its KRAs with your existing customers? So from our point of view, we collect intelligence which could be not just from your prospects, but even from existing customers. So it gives us a very unbiased perspective. Mm-hmm. Does that also happen internally with your teams?
Absolutely does. Absolutely does. I think, again, we bring together intelligence from all different sources. And yes, it may not be as seamless because, again, there are processes and groups, and larger organizations tend to have a little bit of, those challenges where you may not be as easily connected and able to communicate across different groups. But we absolutely do make the effort to reach out to those customer success teams, for example, or the professional services team that are on site and engaged with our customers, along with the sales team, to bring that knowledge to back to us, which then we deploy.
Okay, great. And when you're talking about this intelligence coming from different sources, I'm sure that there's a team which is giving you feedback as well, and the sales team comes back to you and say that, okay, this was an important insight, or this was an important a data point that we could speak upon, or we connect with your customers. What has been your experience while using different sources? Which are the sources that have worked for you? Like an established player and a brand which is out there in the market has been very instrumental, or a niche player who has some connect to your business itself, or some connect with your ecosystem a little bit more, but is not as renowned, or it's a new player or new entrant. Where do you see the balance? Like, is there an evaluation criteria for you to choose the sources?
That's a tough one because there's so many different sources coming our way as marketers now, right? There's small players, there's large players, there's consolidation happening. For example, we deployed Engagio is the foundational platform that we brought on early last year, and then they got acquired by Demandbase. So now we have Demandbase One as the ABM platform. So there is a lot of, we look for the skill set of what we're looking for in our vendor, and then whether it's large or big, large or small does not really matter, as long as they can meet our requirements. And then, as I mentioned, there is consolidation happening in the space. So we do see a lot of larger players bringing and enhancing their suite of offerings as the ABM space matures.
Okay. Now, this is not a typical question that I ask to marketeers, but this is related to actionable intelligence, or the intelligence that we have been providing. We have seen the intelligence that helps you to connect with the right target audience, the right messaging, is also the intelligence that is utilized by the team that is building your, I would say, the resources, or building the entire delivery at the back end, kind of identifying the right skill set to be hired in the future. So we have seen that same intelligence that you use for your connect with the clients also being used in a different department and different teams. So is this like a synchronized effort that happens between your organization, or you think that, okay, my intelligence or the intelligence that you have is limited to the marketing and the functions that you're involved into? Does that circulate internally as well?
Depends. Again, I'd say it goes back to the maturity of the organization, maturity of the different teams, and the communication channels established between those teams. I mean, we're not currently at that stage, but we are definitely moving and inching our way towards more, what I say, non-source of business connections between different teams. But we're not there yet. And I'm sure there are other organizations that are using that and doing those, making those connections. Depends on the use case, depends on maturity.
Absolutely. And that was my second part of the same question, that this intelligence has seen a dramatic turnaround. Like, for example, pre-pandemic, we can talk about this 2 critical years where things had a very dramatic change for cloud as an industry, or the utilization of digital services has gone up way higher. So that does not just impact your customer base, or that also impacts your base of, like, I'm giving you this analysis based on our survey where we found out a spike that we've seen in the kind of hiring that has happened in India, for example, because a lot of outsourcing is done in India with the kind of skill set. Do you think that the analysis that today, or the intelligence, is also to do with mapping the trends like pandemic, mapping the trends, versus pandemic, where you have technologies like AI or IoT or blockchain? These also are one of the trends that also saw a growth because of the post-pandemic, where people saw a definite spike in the utilization of your services. So the question is, do you see this trend level intelligence important, or you see that, okay, pandemic was one of its event, and it probably will not see much of a difference in your approach?
I think it is here to stay. I mean, we were already going down this path before the pandemic. The pandemic really accelerated the pace of change, but this is here to stay. I mean, data, actionable intelligence, and all these, what we are calling trends right now are here to stay. They're not going anywhere in the near future. And hopefully the pandemic is going away very soon. But other than that, everything else, I think what we've seen through the pandemic, the acceleration, it's definitely going to stay and continue.
Okay. One of the interesting parts of market research has been the overall, ecosystem approach that we see. What impacts your client is very limited in your hands, or in your control as a service provider, as to what your client's client would have been impacted. So the entire value chain, or the chain reaction that happens, that there is a technology, there is a company which goes obsolete, and that has happened in pandemic. A lot of businesses went obsolete, and though there was a lot of digital transformation that happened pre 2020, but all of a sudden these industries, some of them like travel, logistics, took a big hit, and due to pandemic. So now my point is that you mentioned earlier that, okay, you're tracking the change, tracking the trends, but how do you kind of plan for something like that, where an industry itself goes into an entire terminal? So is it like a short-term change where you pause and see how this picks up, or it's a game-changing strategy again?
I think it's a little bit of both. In our world, what we did in the ABM space, because we focus and hyper target on a few critical industries and a few critical accounts, what we did at the start of the pandemic is we ran a model where we algorithms that basically told us which industries will continue to thrive in this era going forward, and then which ones will be detractors. So to your point, tourism, travel, logistics, all these industries fell in the detractor space. Okay. So we did shift our focus away from them. And it's not a stop, but it is a pause. We did, in our ABM efforts, we did pause the focus on these detractor space industries, and we hyper focused on the growth industries. So, technology, the financial services, healthcare, we definitely saw a big jump and laser focused in on those. Okay.
And do you think that the companies that work with you, along with you, for providing this intelligence, they should be proficient with your end user industries? Like, for example, I have seen, I'm better off consulting somebody if I am a little bit more proficient with healthcare, rather than only in IT security or cloud security, which comes from your service point of view. So what is your preference when you take up this data sources or intelligence? do you also look at the proficiency of a service provider or a source which is applicable, or they are a little bit ahead, I would say, when it comes to their outreach in the application industry?
Absolutely. I think both matter. We do look at the skill set in that space, but also in the end, visibility, security, whatever we may be. So it's a blend. Absolutely.
Okay. And Angel, you've used intelligence all throughout to build your strategies, to kind of drive your campaigns. How have you seen this entire change in the last 1.5 years of the data intelligence being revived, and a lot of dynamic changes happening in the industry? How have you seen things working around? What has changed for you the most?
The hyper focusing in on the promoter verticals, especially changing. We really changed our efforts. I mean, ABM before the pandemic was a lot of thought leadership events, small roundtables, dinners, executive evenings, and offline events. And obviously the pandemic changed all of that. So we suddenly had to change not only our focus in the accounts that we were going after, the way we were collecting intelligence also changed because everything became online. So we started doing a lot of online surveys, a lot of online, programs and roundtables and virtual events. So it really changed our approach of pretty much 180. And now we're tiptoeing our way back into a little bit of the, blended hybrid model, as I call it, going forward. But it definitely had a huge impact. Okay.
The personas that you typically mention that you go ahead against, we have seen a lot of customers who are looking at personalization as one of the key part of their messaging, where they'll know a little bit more about that person beyond the KRAs or beyond the role that he's typically playing and the kind of objectives that he has. Is this also something, and this is what we've seen change dramatically in the last 6 months. I don't know whether that's a trend across the industry, but most of the system integrators that we work with, the service providers, have been kind of very focused that we just don't want the information of the requirements or what he needs. We just need to know a little bit more about this person so that the connect is a little bit better than what it was. Do you see that also common with you, or you think that's not that specific?
I think that's the basic foundational element of a successful ABM program. You do need to connect with the individual at the end of the persona, the person. It is a human connection that we are building, even though we are building it now through the digital world. We are still hoping to connect with the human at the end, right? So yes, absolutely. I don't think it's a trend. I don't think it's definitely something that is and has always been the end goal of a successful ABM program, is connecting with the account and connecting with the human on the other end of the line, if you will.
And it sounded like you're starting with the one to many or one to few, so it's not really as personalized up front, but maybe further in the process it gets more personalized.
And that's the goal, yes. Yeah. So as we mature, you go down towards that one-to-one.
Okay.
Lots of questions. It's
lots to talk about. I think
to talk about it,
we could
and
spend hours about
more on the 9th. I think it's great. Do you look at much about your competitors or about install base? Is that important, or you're mostly focused on your deliverables, or what matching up what you guys do well with the pain points out there?
So, I mean, when you're building a go-to-market strategy for those accounts, you do have to know who's in play, if any competitors are. We do have that, but it's not a focus area, right? If it shows up in our intelligence gathering, then yes, we definitely do make sure we have messaging that helps make our story stronger. Yeah. But that's part of the broader go-to-market intelligence gathering effort.
Yeah, and likewise, it's not overly important to know what other technology that the company has already. You play well with any technology, I guess.
Yes, we do. We provide network visibility across, and so that's our basic foundation, agnostic of what they have, which tools they have.
One of the questions that I also popped up with other panelists earlier, and I'm curious to know your opinion as well. I have seen this. One of the basic, even when you talked about one-to-many, one-to-one kind of intelligence. You were very pinpoint focus about knowing your client, your prospective client, pain points and challenges, and how your product fits into it. Not once did we discuss about what others are doing. Like a lot of times, people are not really looking at competitive intelligence, or finding out what your peers are doing, and see what their perspective is towards the market. As a researcher, I wanted to understand this. Do you think that what you spoke, has that come as an evolved thought process? Do you think like competitive intelligence is slightly overrated, and people should just focus on the challenges of the prospects and work towards building a solution around it?
Competitive intelligence is definitely not overrated. I mean, that's needed, but that's needed on a broad organizational level, right? In the ABM world, when we're looking at key accounts, we're hyper-focused. So for us, we take the broader competitive intelligence and then we build it in as we build our own go-to-market strategies. We are looking at what's happening in the competitive spectrum for that particular account, but we're not going out and actively monitoring, right? Because that's something that's done on a broader level. If you are in an organization as large as ours, or larger, you definitely have a view and you are watching those trends to make sure that our products are aligned and ahead of our competitors. But in the ABM microcosm, if you will, we're focusing on taking that intelligence and deploying it as it suits that account.
Okay.
So we're not actively out looking and monitoring competition, but we are definitely taking that information and using it to inform our go-to-market strategies.
And Angel, does the right information at the right time also result in not just in the hyper-focused client acquisition, but also impact the sales cycle that you've seen? How have you seen this intelligence really at the ROI stage, where you're looking at finding out, okay, how this panned out for you? Do you also see that changing? Because where we come from, we have seen that actionable intelligence or hyper-focused data insights about accounts and persona have been able to kind of help clients reduce on this, not just on the sales cycle, but also have a breakdown of the services rather than going into full stack of services. There has been a focus where what is applicable has been positioned, so that also reduces your complexity of engagement. Do you see this also as one of the solutions, as a parameter or derivation of actionable intelligence?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, timing is everything, right? Timing is everything, no matter what the program you're in, it's timing. I mean, whether you're selling a shoe or you're selling complicated software, if you don't reach out to your persona at the right time, you could be talking for years and not have a sale. So timing is, and finding the knowledge and the intelligence that tells us that, for example, this organization is going through a cloud migration journey. They need, they're at the right stage to be connected with, and they will be more receptive to our message, versus if you find them when they're not even thinking cloud migration, you could talk to them and send them the messages, but they will never reciprocate. So yes, timing and a little bit of luck is definitely a big, that luck really, can be countered by having more intelligence, right? So knowing as much as you can about that account and where they are helps get us more better timing and helps get us better velocity into building those connections.
Awesome. Appreciate the insights. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to a good discussion. There's a lot, and I'm excited to hear more from what other organizations and other panelists are doing as we connect going forward. But yes, definitely lots of great conversation points to talk about and drill deeper into.
Beautiful. We look forward to it, Angel. Thank you for your time, and look forward to seeing you on the 9th.
Sounds
Thank
great.
you, Angel.
Thank you both. Have a great day ahead. Talk soon.
You too.
Bye.
Cheers.